The rain cut the river into shards of glass the day we buried my sister, Arya. I was still gripping the folded program when I saw my father, Victor Keene, a man who'd spent his whole life polishing our last name like a trophy, step off the gravel path toward the dark water. In his hands, a small wooden box wrapped in white cloth, like a secret too fragile for air. Mom, Helen, stood behind him, eyes hollow, lips pressed together in a shape that no longer belonged to a mother. Dad didn't look at me. He just knelt, set the box down, and let the current take it. I froze. Then the wind shifted, and from inside that box came a sound, thin, trembling, impossible. I ran. My shoes slipped in the mud, my heartbeat drumming like thunder under my ribs. "Please be empty," I whispered, dragging the box from the reeds with shaking hands. The lid was nailed shut. I jammed my car key into the seam, pried it open. And when it did, the whole world broke with it. In Rowan Keene, and in Ravenhill, people used to say the Keenes didn't cry. We wrote checks. We gave statements. We hosted galas for causes that wouldn't stain our suits. My father built Keene v. Hollis Logistics, a freight empire that made him the kind of man who could whisper and still make a room listen. He taught me 3 rules. Protect the family. Protect the name. And protect the silence that protects both. Arya never fit those rules. She was sunlight in a glass house, gold hair, watercolor eyes, paint on her jeans no matter how many dry cleaners Mom recommended. Arya came home that evening with Cole Maddox. When the door opened, the air in the room seemed to freeze. Cole wore a jacket smudged with grease, his hands rough, his smile too genuine for a house like ours. He looked confident, but I could tell he knew he didn't belong here. Dad didn't stand. He just looked up from his plate, his voice calm, cold, rehearsed. "Pleasure to meet you, Mr. Maddox. What do you do?" Cole straightened his posture. "Engines," he said. "Mostly repairs." "Arya paints, I fix things." "Guess that makes us both creators in a way." Silence followed. The kind that hums louder than words. Dad set his knife down, smiled a smile sharp enough to cut glass. "Ambition?" he asked. "Just one word. A test. A trap." Arya's jaw tightened. "Cole's planning to open his own garage," she said. "He's saving up." Dad tilted his head. "A garage," he repeated. "And that's supposed to be enough for my daughter?" Cole's voice didn't shake, but his hands did. "It's not about enough, sir. It's about building something real with her." For a second, I saw it, the flicker in Arya's eyes when someone finally saw her, not her last name. Dad leaned back. Then he turned the same question on her. "Ambition?" Arya paused. The whole table held its breath. Then, softly but clearly, "Joy," she said. "I'm choosing joy." The word hung in the air like smoke. Dad's smile faltered. He turned to me. "You'll protect her," he said quietly. "Not from me, from herself." Cole reached for Arya's hand under the table. She took it, trembling, but held on tight. In that single gesture, I saw both fear and defiance, and something that looked a lot like love. Mom stayed silent, folding napkins that didn't need folding. When dinner ended, no one spoke. That night, the house felt smaller. Dad stayed in his office. Mom cleaned a spotless kitchen. And Arya sat by the window, sketching light into the darkness. As if she already knew she wouldn't stay much longer. Then one afternoon, she showed up at my apartment, hair wet from rain, eyes red from trying not to cry. She didn't knock. She never did. "I can't breathe in that house anymore," she said. I handed her a towel, watched her try to find the right words. That's when she told me. The day Arya told me she was pregnant, her hands were shaking so hard I thought she might drop her mug. I wrapped her in the old throw blanket from my couch, the same one we used to build forts with as kids, and made hot cocoa like it was medicine. "Cole's picking up extra shifts," she said. "Well, figure it out. Somehow." Her eyes softened. The baby kicked yesterday. It was like. He said my name. I pressed my hand gently to her belly. There it was, a faint flutter, fragile as breath. A miracle small enough to fit under my palm. Right then, I knew, like when the sky turns green before a storm, that this would tear our house down to the studs. And it did. Not all at once, but in the small ways families break. In whispers that turn into arguments. In rules disguised as love. And in Dad's calm, surgical voice explaining options that weren't really options at all. Arya stopped coming home after that. Mom pretended she was taking time to think. Dad pretended he believed it. I just pretended I didn't know where she was. Then one night, the phone rang. Hospital. Complications. By the time I got there, she was gone. And 2 hours later, an email landed in my inbox, subject line, funeral statement draft. A press release. For my sister's death. The hospital room still smelled like antiseptic and thunder. By the time I got there, they'd already taken her away. Arya. My sister. Her name sat in my throat like something I couldn't swallow or speak. A nurse handed me a paper to sign, but the words bled together. Time of death. Complications. 2 words that never belonged beside her name. Cole wasn't there. Mom was. Silent. Dad was on the phone, business voice, even here. Someone said, she lost too much blood. Someone else said, the baby didn't make it. I didn't believe them. I couldn't. I sat in the parking lot for hours. Rain drummed on the windshield. One thought kept looping in my head. Maybe if I just waited long enough, Arya would walk out. Smiling. Annoyed at me for crying. But she didn't. And when dawn came, I realized I hadn't moved. The funeral was 3 days later. It had rained every day since. And it was still raining when we laid Arya to rest. The folded program from the service was still in my pocket when Dad walked toward the river again. In his hands the same wooden box, wrapped in white cloth. As if it still held a secret. Mom stood on the path above. Her face blank, her shoulders trembling like she wanted to scream but forgot how. Dad didn't look at us. He just stepped forward and lowered the box into the current. It floated a few feet, then tilted, rocking, half sinking. I opened my mouth to speak, but the wind tore the words away. Then a sound. Thin. Fragile. But alive. I froze. Then I ran. My shoes sank into the mud, rain slicing at my face. Please be empty, I whispered, grabbing the box before it vanished into the reeds. The lid was nailed shut. I jammed my car key under the edge, pried it open, and the world went silent. Inside, a newborn. Wrapped in damp white cloth. Skin pale, lips blue. Chest fluttering like something unsure if it wanted to stay. A hospital bracelet circled his ankle. Baby boy Maddox. My breath stuttered. Oh God. Arya. Without thinking, I pulled off my scarf, wrapped him tighter, pressed him against my chest. He was warm but fading. Then behind me. Give him to me. Dad's voice. Rough. Cracked. Unfamiliar. You threw him in the river, I said. He blinked. You don't understand. Then make me. He looked past me, at the dark water dragging at the reeds. The papers. The timing. Your sister's choices, they created a disaster. A child, I snapped. Not a disaster. Mom's whisper cut the air. Victor, please. He didn't move. We can fix this, Rowan. Fix? I shouted. You don't fix a baby, you save one. Something broke loose inside me, a sound that was part scream, part heartbeat. I ran. For the car. For the road. For what was left of a miracle. Mom didn't follow. Dad didn't stop me. At St. Meridian ER, the doors burst open as soon as I yelled. "He's alive." The triage nurse took one look and barked orders. "Let's move, he's still breathing." She turned to me. "What happened?" I paused just long enough to lie. "Found him near the river. Alone." She stared at me for a beat too long, then nodded. "You saved him." I shook my head. "No," I whispered. "He saved me." At St. Meridian, time didn't move, it just hung there, breathing shallow. I sat between a vending machine that smelled like burnt coffee and a future I didn't understand. When the doctor finally walked over, his scrubs were soaked from rain. "Early distress," he said. "Mild hypothermia. But he's stable now." I exhaled a sound that might have been a laugh or a prayer. "He's a fighter," the doctor added. "Of course he is," I said. "He's Arius." They listed him as Baby Keen, because I said it fast and with a look that dared them to argue. That night, I didn't go home. I bought a cup of black coffee that went cold in my hand before the first sip. Every sound in that waiting room felt like a ghost: the soft squeak of shoes, the hum of fluorescent lights, the echo of a lullaby that wasn't there. When the nurse brought him out in a small hospital blanket, my knees nearly gave out. He was tiny. Perfect. He grabbed my finger like it was a promise. I named him Liam, not Luke, not Lucas. Liam felt like a bridge between what we lost and what we still had. Later, when they asked for my signature, my hands shook so badly the letters looked like they belonged to someone else. I'd signed million-dollar contracts before, but never one that made my chest hurt this way. That night, I fell asleep in the chair beside his bassinet, one hand resting inside so he could wrap his fingers around mine. And when he did, something rewired. Grief bent. Love took over. 3 days later, Dad's car pulled up outside my building, quiet as a verdict. He didn't buzz. Men like him don't ask for doors. When I opened mine, he was already in the hallway. Perfectly pressed suit. Perfectly rehearsed expression. "You've had your moment," he said, voice low enough to sound almost kind. "Now give me the child. I'll handle the arrangements." "Arrangements like drowning?" I asked. He flinched. "Barely. You don't understand what's at stake here. Try me." His jaw tightened. "Discretion. Reputation. The Keen name doesn't survive scandals." "Then maybe it shouldn't," I said. Something flickered behind his eyes: fear, or maybe the first crack of guilt. "Rowan, you're letting emotion cloud your judgment. I already regret every time I let you make my choices." "Enough." He stepped closer. The air between us shrank to a heartbeat. "You can't keep him. You don't have the resources, the lawyers, the power. Watch me." He stared, measuring the shape of my defiance. "You're making yourself an enemy of this family." I looked down at Liam, peaceful, oblivious to dynasties and pride. "No," I said softly. "I'm making us into a real one." Then I closed the door. The latch clicked like a gun. On the other side, my father didn't move. And I realized I was crying quietly, without sound. You can love your family, I thought, and still defend yourself from them. That became my new rule. Morning at St. Meridian felt like cold glass. The rain had stopped, but drops still fell from the roof in slow, stubborn beats. I sat in the waiting room with Aria's bracelet in my hand, her name on paper, but nowhere else. I knew I had to call Cole. He hadn't been at the funeral. He hadn't been at the hospital. No one had told him. Had been on a double shift out of county, and his phone had been cut off. Victor had locked down information, doors closed, lips sealed. It took 3 tries. "Rowan?" His voice sounded like it lived inside an echo. "You should sit down," I said. He didn't. He stayed standing in the wreckage of the life they built. I told him everything. The river. The box. The sound. Silence stretched until I thought the line had died. Then a whisper, "They killed my son." "No," I said quickly. "He's alive. I pulled him from the river. St. Meridian. He's safe." A crashed chair, door. "I'm coming." 38 minutes later, he was there out of breath, hollow-eyed, not from running, but from being shut out. The nurse scrubbed him in and led him to the incubator. He pressed his palm to the glass. "Hey, little man. You made it." He turned to me. "Why did you do it?" "Because Arya wouldn't forgive me if I didn't," I said. "I lost her. I wasn't losing him." Words were useless after that. We started building a plan. Emergency guardianship. Documentation. Every report, every threat, every turned-away visit. A file thin enough to hide under my bed, thick enough to stop a bullet. The next day, flowers big enough to block the sun. Card, "Congratulations on your charity." No signature. At 2:13 a.m., a text from Mom, "I'm sorry. So sorry." I stared until the letters blurred, then looked at Liam, breathing steady in the bassinet. For the first time, I believed we might actually win. The Ravenhill courthouse sat at the end of Willow Street, white stone and ego. That morning, the steps gleamed wet with rain. Dad waited near the doors, flanked by his lawyer, a man whose suit probably cost more than my car. Mom hovered behind them, small and pale, orbiting no one. Cole squeezed my hand. "Whatever happens," he said, "we did the right thing." "Whatever happens," I repeated. Inside, the courtroom felt too small for all the ghosts we brought with us. Judge Dana Rowe entered composed, sharp-eyed, no nonsense written in every line of her face. She flipped through the case file, tapping each page like a heartbeat. "Mr. and Mr. Keene. And Mr. Maddox," she said. "Let's begin." Dad's lawyer stood first. "Your Honor, the Keene family is ready to assume full responsibility for this child's welfare. My client's daughter made regrettable choices, and in the heat of grief, certain mistaken actions were taken by distressed parties." "Mistaken?" the judge repeated. Her tone was ice. "Show me the regret, not the performance. Where is the mother of this child?" Cole swallowed hard. "She's gone, Your Honor." The judge's gaze softened for a breath, then sharpened again. "What I have here is a newborn, a grieving father of modest means, and a paternal uncle who took emergency custody. I also have allegations of abandonment." Dad's lawyer started to speak again. "Sit," Judge Rowe said, without looking up. "I'm not finished." She turned to me. "Mr. Keene, do you have evidence of endangerment?" "Yes, ma'am," I said. "My statement. And a video." Dad's head snapped. "What video?" I met his eyes. "My dashcam. It triggers when there's motion near my parking spot. It caught you and Mom walking toward the river after the funeral with a box. It doesn't show the water," I added. "But it shows your hands empty when you came back." Dad laughed. Too loud, too forced. "A box could contain anything." "Then why," I asked, "was there a hospital bracelet inside it? With Arya's name and Cole's?" Silence hit the room like a hammer. Judge Rowe leaned forward. "Mr. Keene?" Dad tried for his old calm, the kind that could silence boardrooms. "Your Honor," he began, "our daughter made choices that endangered our family. My wife and I panicked. We believed we were leaving the child at a safe haven. We failed. But we can correct that now, within the family where hell have every resource." "At a river?" Judge Rowe asked. Her voice was cold steel. Dad opened his mouth then closed it again. "Stand," she said. He did. Everyone held their breath. "I'm not a woman who buys stories, Mr. Keene," Judge Rowe said. "I buy facts. And here are mine. A newborn was found in a river, his uncle risked his life to save him, the biological father stepped forward, the grandparents' actions remain questionable. The child's best interest is my only client. She turned to Cole. "Mr. Maddox, can you provide a stable environment?" "I can," he said. "I've applied for night shifts at the plant. My aunt's a retired nurse. She offered to help during the day. I'll take classes. Anything. Please. He's my son. And you, Mr. Keene?" "I'll support them," I said. "Financially, logistically, any way I can. We can live as a family if the court allows it." The judge folded her hands, thinking. "And the grandparents?" For a moment, Dad said nothing. Then Mom spoke. "We were wrong," she whispered. Her voice barely there. "We were so afraid of losing face that we lost our daughter. I won't lose my grandson." Dad stared at her as if she'd spoken a foreign language. "Claire?" "No," she said, soft, but solid. Judge Rowe nodded slowly. "Here is my ruling." Her gavel fell like thunder. "Emergency custody is granted jointly to Mr. Maddox and Mr. Keene, pending review. Supervised visitation for the grandparents conditional on therapy compliance. Follow-up hearing in 30 days. Dad's lawyer tried to speak, but words died on the way out. Cole covered his face, shaking with something that sounded like relief, trying to breathe. I sat still because if I moved, I'd fall apart. Mom looked at me and mouthed, "Thank you." Then, "I'm sorry." Outside, the sky cracked open. Rain poured, bright and clean. And for the first time in months, it felt like it wasn't trying to drown us, it was washing us clean. 3 nights later, I went back to the river. I wanted to see the place where the world had ended. And somehow started turning the right way again. The current whispered like someone who remembered everything. When I reached the bank, I saw him. My father. He didn't turn when I came closer. "You were always the troublesome one," he said, his voice stripped of anger. Like had already used up everything else. "I should have known it would be you." "Someone had to do it," I said quietly. "I just got there first." His eyes stayed on the water. "I was raised on reputation. Built an empire out of silence. Thought it made me strong. But silence doesn't protect, Rowan. It isolates." His voice cracked. "You think I don't see her face every night? You think I don't still hear that sound from the box?" A knot rose in my throat. "Then why?" He drew a long, broken breath. "Power's a hallway, son. Every door you close locks behind you. You keep walking, thinking you're in control. Until one day you're standing by a river with a box in your hands. And you don't know how to be anyone else." We both fell silent. The river held us there like 2 reflections in the same mirror. "You can still step back," I said softly. "It's not too late." He finally looked at me, smaller, human for once. "For me, stepping back has always meant losing." "You don't have to win anymore," I said. "Just try." His gaze met mine. "Court made a fool of me." "I saved your grandson," I said. "Maybe even what's left of you." He let out a sound, half laugh, half sob. "You won, Rowan." "No," I said. "Liam did." We stood there a long time, listening to nothing but water. Weeks passed. Cole started night shifts. I learned the rhythm of bottles, sleepless nights, and small victories. Mom came by with bags of groceries and apologies she couldn't quite say. When she held Liam for the first time, she cried silently, shaking. The next visit, she brought a canvas from Aria's room. "He should grow up with her colors," she said. Dad came once. Empty-handed, but not empty-faced. He stood at the doorway like a man asking permission to be forgiven. "I started a scholarship," he said quietly. "In Aria's name. For kids who want to paint. And for boys whose last names don't open doors." Cole nodded. "It's a start." Dad swallowed hard. "The rest I'll do on my own." And for the first time, I believed him. Months later, on the first clear day of spring, we went back to the river. Cole carried Liam. I carried flowers. Mom walked quietly beside us. Dad came last, his hands open. We stood where it all began. I set the flowers down on the water. They spun, caught the current, and drifted away free, unburdened. "Hi, Arya," I said. "He's even more beautiful than you imagined." Cole kissed Liam's head. "She'd be proud of you," he said. Mom closed her eyes. Dad didn't look away this time. He stepped closer. "I'm sorry, Arya," he said softly. "I'll spend the rest of my life earning the right to know him." Liam yawned. A tiny fist unfurled toward the sky. The wind shifted. Somewhere, a dog barked like laughter. We stood there, 4 people, not perfect, not healed, but healing. Families aren't made of marble. They're made of flesh. Of mistakes. Of love. They bleed. They scar. And somehow, they mend. As we walked away, the river kept moving. Same as always. But this time, I swear it sounded like it was singing, "Thank you for staying with me through my story." If these words touched you, if they stirred something in you or made you reflect on your own journey, I ask only 3 small things. Like the video so others can find it. Leave a comment, share your story, or simply tell me what struck you the hardest. Subscribe because more stories are coming, and you won't want to miss what's ahead.